Hello, and welcome to another episode of the It's the Pitchers podcast. This is episode 162, and I am your host, Max Colville. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, John Gilpatrick. Hi, John.
Hi, Max. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, we're sitting in different chairs
I
today.
know 2024 is opposite year.
No, I mean, like, this is a long time coming. We've for a lot of years, I've done a lot of the extra episodes with me hosting
Yeah, you
and
have.
um just trying on a new hat, if you will.
It looks
And
good on you.
and we'll see how hosting fits me over the course of the next few episodes. um Anyways, this is 2024. It's a new year. Did you have a nice holiday, John?
Yeah, it was good. It was busy. They always are. But we had a nice time, saw some family, and caught up with some movies, thankfully, enough to cross over and create a proper top 10 list.
Yeah, I like it was weird year, John, 23, because like even myself, I found that my watching was a little bit down. I think like I tried to hit like 100 movies in a year that the movies come out, and I think I was at like maybe 70, 73.
Yeah.
So even I was a little behind. I mean, like, and you figure I went to TIFF, and that
Oh, yeah.
in
Wow.
that period I get like 16, 18 movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a I don't know if it was necessarily a bad year, because like I found plenty to love, but
Yeah.
maybe a little thinner than most.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. And like I said, I mean, I haven't watched anywhere near the total you have. For me, it's really just like kind of picking and choosing the movies that I seem interested in watching. And there's just fewer to choose from than there have been, I think, really like in this is on par with all the post COVID years. I wouldn't say it was better or worse. But like, ever since the pandemic, it just feels like, we've had more paltry totals of movies, and I don't know if we're ever going to get back to those pre-COVID totals, but that's a much larger discussion.
Yeah, right. And we've lost a lot of those mid-market films going to streaming and what have you, and
Yeah.
just studios wanting to take less of a risk. I mean, we're in 24 right now, and I guess one of the bigger movies that's coming out all the way until I guess March is a Mean Girls musical remake.
Yeah.
So pretty dismal out there between January and February,
A
and
little rough. At
yeah,
least last year we had Megan.
right. I think I don't know which studio it is that's releasing it, but like the movie Argyle, I've seen like nonstop trailers, and I just like every time I see a trailer for it, I'm like, what is this movie? I don't
Yeah.
have any interest in this.
So I don't know if you know this, but there is a theory out there on corners of the internet that the movie Argyle is written by Taylor Swift.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that would be amazing.
uh, my wife told me all the details, and if I'm being totally candid, like some of them went in one ear and out the other, but I'm sure you can find them if you're really curious.
That's okay. We'll forgive you, Mrs. Gilpatrick.
Sure.
um, yeah, and so now we're seeing all the bellwethers, if you will, for the awards season, and the movies that people should have quote been paying attention to.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the big three guilds: the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild of America, the GGAs, and the Producers Guild of America, all announced their nominations. And if you've been in the Oscar tea leaves like John and I have over the last decade or so, you can read that the chances are pretty good that the nominees are going to come from these three groups,
Yeah. No doubt.
and that like movies like Barbie, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, The Holdovers, and Killers of the Flower Moon are definitely the best picture locks, if you will, and everything else is just kind of out on the outside looking in. And it's funny, ever since like they decided to do away with the five. Best Picture nominees and do 10. I feel like it's always just been because like, oh, we feel bad for all these studios and they can use it as a bullet point on their list. Like, oh, it's a Best Picture nominee. But like really outside of like maybe 5 movies, I really don't think like the others have much of a chance.
No, that's and like you said, that's usually the case. Like maybe they'll get one win somewhere. Um, I there's been plenty over the years that kind of walk away empty-handed, even though they get a lot of nominations, including Best Picture. But that's just kind of the way this goes. It would be curious to like go back over the last decade or so since they've been doing this and see like, is there always a clear top five, and that would have kind of fit into the pre, 2008 framework or whatever. But yeah, it does feel like there is this year, and it's the movies you mentioned. So
We'll find out soon if John has seen those 5. But
perhaps.
yeah, I think like I've seen most. I think I've seen all the big nominees, and I feel like I enjoyed all the movies to some extent. I mean, maybe the one that I liked the least in the conversation is Maestro,
Yeah,
and if that's only because like Netflix's other medium-sized movie, May December, kind of was more interesting for me,
sure.
and it feels like, oh, Netflix decided to put their whole cart behind Maestro, and it's just the way things are. So that's
Yeah,
the one that they're pushing. Other than
makes sense.
that, I mean, um, before we go into the our favorites of 23, John, I have to ask: did you get any movie paraphernalia for Christmas or the holidays?
Uh, no, I don't think so. Just I got a lovely 4K of Oppenheimer from Universal.
Yes, I got that too. That was nice.
uh,
I was like, oh, I was gonna like buy this or like put it on a
I
Christmas list, but it's
same.
really
No, I totally was gonna do the same. So it was just like, well, this is nice. But yeah, no, not really. It was my family decided we were gonna do edible Christmas so that like we didn't have more junk. So everybody kind of got things that we could enjoy uh, in the kitchen, and no movie stuff.
oh, that's good though. Like we had too much junk in our house. I think that we got over the holidays, and
Yeah,
I use junk in the loosest term because like I enjoyed all the gifts. So if my
sure.
parents or parents-in-law are listening, I love all my gifts.
Naturally.
But it's just a lot. The holidays are a lot. Um, I don't think that I necessarily got too much movie related stuff. I had asked for like some Arrow films releases, so I got like Barbarella, which was kind of like a goofy like, oh, I want to see what this is like, and
Yeah,
I've now watched it, and yes, it's very goofy.
yeah.
I also got like an Arrow release of Carlito's Way, and I've never seen that before, so that was an Al Pacino blind spot for me. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Other than that, I was lucky enough to get some press copies of stuff and like some of the bigger movies like Titanic in 4K or a Columbo series box set from Kino Lorber, and those stuff was really awesome. Transition now. We're gonna go into, John and I throughout the many years we've done this podcast. I feel like we have like special events that we like to do. We like to look back at our most anticipated movies while trying to anticipate more.
Really is one of the most fun exercises we do, I think, is that where
Yeah,
we, yeah, all the things that we were excited about stupidly.
right. And then like we don't even end up watching half of them that we thought we were excited for.
Right, yeah, or they didn't even come out.
And then we do our summer movie contest, and um then we have the fall focus stuff with focusing on some of the heavy hitters of the fall. But one that we like to do before the Oscars is just like point out our personal favorites of the year, and they're not necessarily the 10 movies that will be nominated for Best Picture. but just movies that really interested us or made us excited and made us renewed our faith in the movie system.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
um, but yeah, John, I will give you the chance. We usually do we announce our 10 through 6 and then we um spend a little bit more time on our top 5
Correct.
to really get in the nitty-gritty of the stuff that we absolutely loved. So, John, let's start with yours. I won't. I know you alluded to not watching many, so I
Yeah,
won't like push you for a solid number. But why don't you give us your 10 through 6 of the movies that you were excited to see
yeah.
and that you enjoyed?
This is like I'm totally content with this top 10 list. Like I could have seen the number that I actually did see, or I could have seen 100, and I'm like, this is a good top 10 list. Um, so my number 10, I just had to. Everybody's gonna call me a homer, and that's totally fine. But Kelsey, which was my favorite documentary of the year, which came out on Amazon right at the start of football season, and today we are in the first ever day of a post Jason Kelsey world for Eagles fans, and bums me out. But I thought it was a really good documentary. Really enjoyed it, and
It's
yeah.
it's good that you specified it was Jason because Travis has
Oh
been.
well, Caitlin thought it was gonna be about Travis when we watched it. But so it is. My number 9 is the Iron Claw, which was the wrestling drama with Zac Efron. Number 8 is Barbie, which you all probably know about. Number 7 is Anatomy of a Fall, and number 6 is The Boy and the Heron.
Oh, that's fun. That those were your bottom 5. I actually didn't get a chance to see the Iron Claw. They never sent a screener over, and that kind of looks interesting to me. Like I don't normally go for like Sean Durkin's movies because like I don't know, I didn't love his last two, but being a wrestling fan, I was kind of interested in the Iron Claw.
Yeah, it's good.
A lot of people are surprised, like Zach Efron, like maybe he could have been Dark Horse nominated, but I'm like, how many people actually saw this movie? Because it's like,
It's kind of a shame because, like,
yeah,
I feel like it could have a good audience, and they really just buried it.
yeah. All right, so my 10 through 6 is Killers of the Flower Moon was 10. I liked The Boy and the Heron as well, Miyazaki's presumably last film, although he's now said that he's not done yet, but we'll see. Um, 8 was the French nominee for Best International Feature Film, The Taste of Things. I actually did prefer it to Anatomy of a Fall. This is the Julie Binoche and Benoit Magimel kind of romance drama and food porn at its greatest, John. I don't know if you got to see this IFC release
I
yet,
have
but
not seen that one.
yeah, I thought the romance in it was better than many that I had seen over the course of the year. So I think it dropped for critics like the day before Thanksgiving, and I was like, this is
Ooh,
perfect.
that's good to know.
And yeah, so I really enjoyed that. 7 is the Judy Blume adaptation. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That was a surprise for me, and I love that movie. Uh, Absolutely. And 6 was Barbie for me. And I think
Okay.
if we're gonna spend even a second on Barbie, I'm gonna say that the "I'm Just Ken" number should definitely win Best Original Song this year. I think I want to see Ryan Gosling perform it live.
It'll be hilarious. Oh man. It'll be like the inverse of Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper doing A Star Is Born, which was like so heartfelt, and this is going to be just absurdist, but no less essential to the zeitgeist.
Yeah, and it's funny, John. We're a day removed from an Emmys telecast that was like, I guess, really low viewing numbers for a number of reasons, including coming 4 months late and being on against an NFL playoff game. Um, but
Yeah, well, that game sucked.
I'm sure audience member Rob McElhenney would agree with you, as there was pictures of him watching the game
Yeah, I saw that.
while he was at the Emmys. Um, but he but I guess the show, from what I heard, because I did watch football, they did a good job of recognizing the 75th anniversary and showcased a lot of classic TV shows. Certainly something that the production of the Oscars will have to um, really think about, because even as far as award shows goes, I liked the Tony Awards that happened during the middle of the strikes. I don't know how many award shows you watched, John, but
I
they were
saw the
very,
Golden Globes.
yeah, they were very pressed the Tonys, because everybody was on strike. But
Right.
I thought it worked really well regardless, and I'll be interested to see what the Oscars do this year, as I am every year. But
Yeah.
my hopes are not exactly high.
Nor should they be.
Okay, so we're in our top five of 2023. And John, I will give you the honor of doing your number five first.
Okay, well, it's going to be a movie you already talked about. It is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which, you said was a really delightful surprise for you, and it was a very delightful surprise for me as well. And I wasn't super familiar with the story. I just really appreciated it. Was directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, who did The Edge of 17, which is like a similarly, very thoughtful, well acted, kind of a little bit more, aimed for older audience than this movie was, which I think just kind of fits just about everybody. Recommended it to a lot of people, and I think it just, does everything it's trying to do very well. Rachel McAdams was a highlight for sure. I don't know if she's going to be in the mix for supporting actress. I feel like probably not, but I think she should be. And everybody really hit their marks really well. It's just a really nice, well made movie, kind that you don't really get a ton of anymore. And I'd love to see more like this for sure.
Yeah, and John, I think I wrote about the movie a little bit at the time, and why I said, like, I couldn't really associate with a young woman going through puberty, but I could associate with a person trying to decide what faith they'll
Yeah,
follow, or what
totally.
avenue, because I come from a Jewish and Christianity background, and I I, I think I eventually picked Judaism, but certainly when I was growing up, it was a push and pull, like, oh, you should try this, you should try that, and whatever you decide. And I could see some of the frustration of that, and the young woman's character, and that spoke to me. And certainly, like you said, Rachel McAdams is. I think what I read is that a lot of that was changed from the original text, and they gave the mother a lot more agency, and to show, like, how, from her perspective, it would be to raise her daughter, and not only that, but deal with the demands of her own parents,
Yeah.
as we see in the movie.
Yeah, all that stuff, like in a movie that's ostensibly, aimed at, kind of teenage girls, was just really interesting. And you're kind of getting all of it from the perspective of somebody who, like, is perceptive enough to, like, know that something's going on, but not necessarily understand all, like, the weight of it, and kind of all the complexities around it. And I just felt like the film gives us that perspective really well and thoughtfully. And like I said, I've recommended it to a lot of people. A buddy of mine was asking if it was appropriate for his daughters, who are, I think, like 10 and 8, if I remember correctly. And I was like, that's up to you. as the parent. I was like, just be prepared for, maybe needing to have some conversations.
Right, a little
Um,
bit earlier than you would. I mean,
Ish,
like,
perhaps, yeah, and he told me afterwards. He's like, "We watched it. They all loved it. Yeah, it was a big hit." And I was like, well, "That's good." So, yeah, I think it's just a really well made movie.
yeah, it's funny. Like even me, I was like thinking like, oh, like thinking about the small elements in Pixar's latest movie, Turning Red, and like how
Sure.
or would my daughter notice something like that even at 4? And it's like no, it's like those things
No,
go over her
definitely
head,
not. Yeah,
but certainly that's something that she'll have to face someday. So
yeah, yeah.
okay. For me, my number 5 was The Holdovers, and
Well,
this is
I'll just say right now, my number four is The Holdover, so we can
all
do it in
right.
tandem.
Yeah, we'll do in tandem. So The Holdovers is the latest collaboration between Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti, and years after Sideways.
Yep.
And I tell you, John, I don't know if it's just Giamatti and Payne that I love, but like I always remember like really loving his performance in Sideways and like becoming like a lifelong fan of Paul Giamatti. But like his performance in The Holdovers is just like reaffirms why
Yeah.
I am such a fan of his.
Agreed.
Um, it's like it's funny because it's not like the biggest like standout or screaming role there is. I mean, like obviously, if you want to like compare him to like other contenders in his category, you got like Bradley Cooper, whose performance is very loud and boisterous, and he's trying to recreate Leonard Bernstein and all his mannerisms, but Paul Giamatti really had to like reach in and find like this like really not only like despised teacher, but like despised because he has his own demons that he's fighting, and certainly that is the story of The Holdovers. Is these three individuals all have their own kind of problems and demons that they have to face, and to see how they'll make it to the other side, um, and why that doesn't necessarily sound like that joyous of a movie. It certainly has its hilarious bits, and I'm sure anybody who's heard anything about it, it's for maybe a lot of people and me particularly. I'll try to include it on my annual Christmas watches. It's I think Payne originally said like they didn't intend to make it like a Christmas movie, but like
Sure.
the holidays themselves are such like they can be such a downer for people. I'm thankful that like I've only had like 2 Christmases like that in my life where I've just felt like absolutely mind-numbingly disappointed with the world, and um you know I'm able to have nice Christmases sometimes, but it's certainly in the back of my mind that there's people out there that do struggle over the holidays, and
Yeah.
I guess The Holdovers does a nice way of showing how those people can face those problems and maybe find some peace in them as well.
Yeah.
Did you?
I guess I should probably go on my thoughts, but I think you
Yeah.
spoke really well for the film. I think that the big theme for me this year of my favorite movies was, yeah, really like just major standout performances, and that's not always the case, but Giamatti was one of my favorites, no doubt. I thought that Divine Joy Randolph is obviously excellent as well, and Dominic Sessa in his first major role like this stands out. Uh, the It's just really pleasant. I know I said I recommended Are You There God? It's Me Margaret to a lot of people, but The Holdovers is every year there's one or two of these movies, and The Holdovers is one I just would absolutely recommend to everybody who asks, because I just can't imagine somebody watching and really just feeling like it was worthless or whatever. Like
Yeah,
it's just
it's funny that we feel that way though, because at its heart, it is such a sad story.
yeah, it
Um,
is.
but like you also feel like since it's it's a period piece and Christmas and stuff. And it feels like they don't make them like this anymore, and it feels just like that it scratches that itch. And like even though like it does the sentimental things that it's going to do, like you can like see the writing on the wall right away for this movie. But
Yeah, it's not that hard to figure out where it's going to go, but like just the joy is kind of being with the characters as they get there.
right,
And all the fun, there's so many fun lines that you'll be laughing about in your head for a while afterwards. And the not just the period details within the movie, but in the way that it's kind of constructed. And that all that was pretty fun too. So it just felt like he was more playful than usual. And we did our Alexander Payne episode not too long ago. But this is instantly at the top of my Payne rankings for sure.
yeah, it would be top tier pain for you too.
Number one, I think, with the bullet, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I wasn't underselling it when when
No,
I.
no, I was. I mean, I know you were high on it, but I still my expectations were surpassed for sure.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so I will continue because you shared your number four. And number four for me is Past Lives,
Ah, okay.
which is a first film that premiered at Sundance, and it's one of those movies that just had staying power all season.
Yep.
Um, it's definitely a small movie, but it has this like really tight glue that just sticks with you. Like I guess that's just the nature of the story because um, Greta Lee plays the lead here, and um, when she's younger, she has the best friend in Korea, and maybe they're more than friends, but children at that age, can't really tell because they're young kids. But they reconnect later via like early internet, before we had um, Zoom calls. Uh, we had these like really botchy internet calls, and that's how they kind of explore their relationship again, and wonder if they'll meet up. Um, him in Korea and her in the United States, and you know that distance makes it difficult for them to continue their relationship. And flash forward again, and she's married, and he comes out to America finally to see her, and there's this like really huge tension and magnetic pull between the two of them where you're like, if something had changed just a little bit differently, how would have life been? And that's something they explore, and in a lot of ways, um, it reminds me of those like heavily scripted movies like the Before trilogy, where like
Yeah.
the characters really analyze, well, what if this was different?
Right.
And um, meanwhile, the husband's like kind of worried. He's like, well, is my wife gonna leave me? Or like he's being a good sport about the whole thing. But um, yeah, it does enough where you're like really sad to think like, oh, they should have found some way to make it work, or like they're perfect together. Or then on the other hand, you're like, no, she's happy, and like it's really good. And then there's just like these moments of silence between the actors, and that you know just speak volumes to their relationship. And yeah, it was an A24 release. It came out in the springtime, so it's definitely had an opportunity for people to see it or get involved with it. I guess like I was surprised. Shannon told me that it's on her Korean streaming app Viki. So if you have that and have not seen it, you can certainly stream it there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's gonna might get lost in the shuffle here at the end of the year. Although like people have been still championing it, and it's picked up these like little like awards, and it's probably A24's strongest movie this year. But yeah, it's definitely smaller, and you should seek it out if you can.
Yeah, it's still on my to watch list. I don't really have any excuses, but I still do need to see it.
I'm excited now to hear your third best film of the year.
Okay, well, should I tell you some American fiction? Oh, that was my number three. This is the debut feature by Cord Jefferson and stars Jeffrey Wright, an actor who I love and who is probably doing his best work to date in this great movie. And for me, it was just something that like kind of just jumped out and surprised me, and I didn't really know much about it going in besides that like I think it won the People's Choice at TIFF. Is that
It did,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's like can be like hit or miss.
Sure, Green Book won the People's
Yeah,
Choice.
right, exactly. So it's like I wasn't like, oh, good, like I can't wait to watch this year's People's Choice winner. I just thought like, it was a movie that people were into, and like, yeah, it did a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for. I mean, the first like 20 minutes or so, and it's kind of dissecting this really curmudgeonly author and his feelings about like the state of sort of literature and like race within the literary world. And I thought all that stuff was like really interesting, and then it kind of pivots and just becomes this like really heartfelt family drama as well, on top of everything else that's happening that's very satirical and funny and unique. And I just thought that like it balanced all these different elements extremely well. Again, the acting was fantastic. I mean, Jeffrey Wright is excellent, but the rest of the cast is also very good. And it just was a movie that kind of kept me on my toes. And I appreciated that because it doesn't happen that often. It doesn't, especially doesn't happen that often from a debut filmmaker. So it was just like, the announcement of a new exciting voice that got me really excited as well, and was happy to see it's doing fairly well. I think at the with the end of the year, uh, pundits and
Yeah,
awards bodies.
I think it got a SAG nomination for best
Yeah,
ensemble. So
yeah, it seems like Wright's going to be in the mix. I don't know, he's probably not going to win, but he's going to get a nomination, which will be nice to see. Maybe some screenplay love. So yeah, overall, I think it's doing well enough, and I think it's worthy, and it's my number three.
yeah, I saw that at TIFF on its opening
Mhm.
night, and I didn't know what to expect. Because of course there's no trailers or anything beforehand, and I just thought, oh well, this has Jeffrey Wright in it, uh, probably pretty good.
Yeah,
And that was a good guess.
it was a good guess.
I thought the film was really funny. I've told a lot of people that they should check it out, and they'd be surprised. And not only, like you said, how it kind of like makes fun of the publishing agency and like how what books get published, and just like it reminded me like of that controversial novel a few years ago, like American Dirt, where like an author wrote about an experience she had like no experience with. Like people thought like she would definitely had that experience, and she's like, no, I just kind of made it up. And they're like, oh, um it's stuff like that. And it's kind of crazy what gets passed around in the bestsellers world. But I thought that was really funny in this one. And I won't spoil like some of the best lines, but John, it was so funny when he was like, let's see how far we could push it and give the book an even alternate title.
I was watching the Eagles game yesterday with some friends, which that alternate title sums up my night very well. Um, but the one guy had seen the movie, and I mentioned it was one of my favorites, and he was just like, the scene where he pitches the alternate title of the book, I was dying laughing. It's really, really funny.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie. Even like the romance in it with Jeffrey Wright's character and his
Yeah,
partner,
really good.
pretty heartfelt with that. And I think for me, like maybe the ending didn't really satisfy me, but they tried.
It gets a little meta.
Yeah, they tried. But yeah, I hope more people see it, and certainly this awards consideration helps people find it and tune in.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, for my number three, I picked the Zone of Interest.
Okay, that's
Um,
another one I haven't seen.
yeah, this was A24's other big movie this year. They picked this one up out of the Cannes Film Festival, where Zone of Interest won, I guess, the runner-up prize at the festival behind Anatomy of a Fall, and it's directed by Jonathan Glazer. And on paper, it's like a movie I never wanted to see.
Hmm.
It's like about a German family who are definitely Nazis, so let's not sugarcoat it, and they're living next to uh, Auschwitz, and just like not even paying attention, or just like not even caring what's going on
Hmm.
um, next to them, and it's just kind of they're worried about their benign lives and moving up in the world as opposed to the thousands of people that are dying right over their wall.
Hmm.
Um, I found like a lot of really interesting things about it while I was watching it. Is like they really make a point with the sound design, and you don't really need to care about some of the conversations that they have. Like I guess Sandra Huller's character, what she appeared in both Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of
Hmm.
Interest this year. She like talks about this new coat that she got from um a Jewish person who had to like give up the coat, and she was so excited about it. And it's just like you could care less about the conversation. You're like just like trying. You're kind of zoned into like what's going on around the their house and
Hmm.
everything else. And the movie is not graphic. I mean, that was one of my fears going into it. Like such a topic, it's just like maybe they'd show stuff, and if you watch a movie like Son of Saul, that movie is definitely
Hmm.
graphic and hard to watch.
Hmm.
This is not that graphic, but just it will make you feel like uneasy.
Hmm.
And while I know like all the awards in the world might not make people want to sit down and watch this film, given its subject matter. Um, I don't know. I was really enamored with Jonathan Glazer's last film, the one with Scarlett Johansson, and
Hmm.
so
Under the Skin.
yeah, on this again. So I wanted to give this one the benefit of the doubt as well. So yeah, I thought it was good. I think I'd actually sit through it again, John. Surprisingly, like
Wow.
you'd say like, oh, maybe I'd be one and done and never need to see it again. But I'd be kind of interested to see what my thoughts would be on a rewatch as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's on my list of this is unlike past lives. This is a movie just like I haven't actually had an opportunity to see, but I am. I don't know if excited to is the right word. I mean, similar feelings as you, but like, it's definitely something I want to see, and have heard good things about from pretty much everybody who's seen it. So not a super surprising choice, but sounds like a worthy one for sure.
All right, and John, we're up to the runner-up time in our list, and I'm excited to hear your runner-up. I'm thinking to myself that if your runner-up isn't what I think it is, then I know who your winner is already.
Sure,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I think you know who my winner is already, but I would say just before I announce my number two, like I was thinking about this year. Now, this is the fourth year of this like 2020s decade, and where do these movies fall in relation to my favorites from the past few years? And going to be putting together a best of the decade list in 5 more years or whatever. And I think that my two favorites this year are probably better than anything I've seen since the pandemic, really. So in that respect, it was a good year because I felt like the cream of the crop was really, really strong. But my number two is Poor Things, the Yorgos Lanthimos movie. And obviously, if you've listened to this podcast a long time, I'm a big fan of his. Um, the Lobster was one of my favorite movies of whatever year that came out, and The Favorite was, maybe not my favorite movie, no pun intended, but was something I felt really strongly about and enjoyed. I think Poor Things is probably my new favorite Lanthimos movie. And I really think that Emma Stone gives the best performance I've seen from any actor or actress in many years. It's just so, you know, it's so showy, but also so nuanced at the same time, which is like just something that I didn't think was totally possible. But just like the subtle like ways that she kind of ages herself physically, vocally, etc., like from scene to scene is really just smart. And the just weird like details that I appreciate out of all of his movies, but are kind of here in spades, not just like plot wise, but also visually and audibly and everything else. Just like it's such a strange movie, but like it's also very like it's like weirdly approachable and very kind of human, and I just really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, Poor Things is also my number two,
Okay.
and I agree with you on a lot of things. And from people who haven't seen the movie, they're probably getting it like piecemeal to them, where like they're being told like there's a lot of sex in it, and
Yeah,
yeah, there is
there
a
it
lot of
is.
sex.
Yeah,
There's a
that
lot of
is
sex
a
in it.
fact.
Yeah, but it's more than that, and
Definitely.
whereas like some people thought that Barbie was really like a not necessarily coming of age, but coming of mind for the character. It's very similar here with Poor Things, where Emma Stone's character is pretty much an infant when we first meet her, and how she intellectually grows over the course of the film, not only from you know bizarre ways, but ways that would help her grow. And um then you say, Max, how does having sex a lot help you grow? I mean, I mean, like it's obviously not just like it's not just that.
There's more to
um
it than that, even though that's an important part of it also.
right. And just like having the freedom of to express her sexuality. I think like the aforementioned characters, I thought Mark Ruffalo was fantastic in this. I mean,
Yeah,
I think the SAGs preferred William Dafoe, who he's great
who's
too.
also really good. Yeah,
Rami Youssef is great in this.
yeah.
So it's like a great um, collective cast, and um, I just really enjoyed it. Like as you said, it's definitely quirky, and it's definitely a Yorgos Lanthimos film. Like
Hmm.
if you I had some relatives who were like, "Oh, well, we didn't know what we were going to see on Christmas Day, so we decided we were going to see Poor Things." And I'm like,
Woo.
I haven't called them yet to be like, so tell me about it. But
Yeah,
like, but like, I can't wait because
that's a
they're like,
great Christmas watch.
yeah, yeah. Um, but like, I was just like, I really enjoyed the movie, and like I keep on trying to convince Shan to like sit down and watch it with me and just be like, yeah, it's worth watching. Like if you think like the trailer is bizarre, and like Lanthimos and his director of photography, I forget who it was, they like very they use a lot of like fisheye lens, which some
Hmm.
people could like get
Take it or leave
distracted.
it. Yeah,
Um, but it definitely has a signature look about it, and I'm looking forward to Lanthimos's other collaboration of Emma Stone that's probably coming out in 24, because like
yeah,
they've already been like working on it. And um yeah, uh, that one excited me.
yeah. Well, same, obviously. So very interesting that we had the same number two, and I assume the same number one.
Well, I don't think that either of us is gonna have Saltburn, which is funny because like I only mentioned Saltburn here because like I see it like nonstop like online now, and
Yeah, it's
I tell
become
you,
a meme.
yeah, that's because like they released it on streaming so quickly,
I
and
know. Well, yeah, it was there for the holidays, and people are just tuning into something. It was also kind of made for the internet for in a lot of ways, but I
yeah,
liked
like
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
you liked it. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
I had explained to my sister-in-law the other day, like she was like, "Oh, so I see them like talking about scenes, but since I didn't see it, like what's going on?" I like told them, and they're like they still had like their mouth agape, like they're like I can't. That happened in that movie. I was like, yeah, it's they went there.
Yeah.
And that murder on the dance floor song, I just hear that everywhere now. But yeah, that might have been my biggest disappointment of the year, the Emerald Fennell's Saltburn, because I loved Promising Young Woman so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely no promising young woman, but I thought it was a good, enjoyable watch. Disappointment of the year. I don't really have any because I just didn't watch movies that I felt like would disappoint me.
So I think I know what your number one is, but does that tell me you didn't see the Scorsese?
I haven't seen it yet. No,
John,
I didn't see it in theaters, and I kept waiting for them to send me a link to watch it for free because I didn't want to pay $20, and they never did. So I'm gonna do my Apple TV Plus.
yeah,
Uh,
they just put it on there on Friday.
yeah, so I'm gonna watch it like very soon. But yeah, that's why I didn't. I was just waiting for a link, and they never sent one.
we we as the audience, and we as in the royal we, Max, demand that the next time that I see you, that you have, no, well,
Yeah,
I won't
yeah,
see
I
you,
will. I will, like,
but
no
like you
doubt.
have seen this movie.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
It was your number one most anticipated for 2 years.
It was indeed. But yeah, so that's that. But my number one is something else that was very hotly anticipated at the start of the year and did not disappoint, and it was Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
So John, I haven't always had the same number ones. I think Nomadland might have been the last time,
That
but
was my number one that year.
um, like yeah, I agree with you. Oppenheimer's my number one.
Yep.
It it I didn't think he could do it, but
Me
he
either.
did.
And I came into this movie. I mean, I think we talked about it, but like, I was not a huge fan of Dunkirk. I was really not a fan of Tenet, and I was just kind of like, it's been almost 10 years since this guy made a movie that I liked. So like, am I just out? Like, what's the deal? And he comes out with this, which is just easily one of his best. Just the type of movie that like I didn't think a biopic could like capture my imagination the way that this one does, but it did. And I don't think that there's like a faulty note in the entire movie. I mean, I remember seeing it and in theaters, like I loved it pretty instantaneously. And I do remember thinking like, I wish my gripe, if I had one, was that like the bomb goes off a little bit too early because I felt like you're just in the theater a little bit too long after that happens. Um, and everything else is interesting, but not as like, you know, exhilarating.
Did you feel that way again?
No, I really liked it the second time at home. I think it totally holds up. I didn't really like it flies by. I didn't have the same complaint. Is it an absolutely perfect movie? Probably not. But I just think that it does more than anything else this year that I saw in terms of just making me feel like, dang, like, the movie still got it. And I'm just grateful that, he had the vision to make it happen and was, kind of given the runway to do so.
Yeah, and it's funny that there's just so many good performances in the movie that like when people point out like, oh yeah, Emily Blunt's like a shoe in to be nominated, I'm like, what? I was like as among like maybe like 10 other memorable like segments in that movie, I'm like maybe like I don't remember her role in the movie as fondly as
Yeah.
some of her performances. I mean, certainly the critics loved other performances, but when it comes to the guilds and actors, they really loved Robert Downey Jr., who is definitely the biggest part other than Killian Murphy's character. He's in the movie a whole lot of time, playing like the opposition, if you will.
Yeah.
it's funny. Like when I think I was watching it, or I mentioned it to Shannon that Robert Downey Jr. was in it, and she's like, "I didn't know he was in that." I was like, "Yeah, like everybody's in this." I'm like, if you weren't in Barbie, then you were in Oppenheimer. It's like those two movies that came out, it had like a zillion actors in it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I know like even like Casey Affleck's like eight
Oh
minutes
my God.
that was like really good.
Yep.
Um,
Alden Ehrenreich and Jason Clark.
and the Safdie brother who's been in everything now.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
good.
Great. Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, he does the Kenneth Branagh is like the third man, right? He's like he has that moment like where it's building up and like oh you're gonna see him, we have
Yeah.
to rescue him, and then he shows up, he's like hey!
Yeah. 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 Totally.
He gets the big
I'm here.
yeah the big hair moment.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, what else is there to say?
Yeah, I mean
Do you
I've
think
talked.
here? I mean, we're talking about our favorite movies, and we're in the context somewhat of award season. But do you think it's going to go all the way?
I find it hard to believe it won't.
Yeah.
It like you could argue like I think a lot of people I know you haven't seen it yet feel like Killers of the Flower Moon is also like another Irishman where like it'll probably get
Yeah.
like 10 nominations and
Right.
like maybe like win like two or three this time instead of Irishman's
Sure.
nothing. But
Yeah. Right.
I don't think like that many people loved it, but it's always included. Like I think maybe I don't know if it was Bofka's number one, but it was definitely like Roger Ebert's number one because so many people would put it in their top 10.
Yeah. Understood.
I guess if you're gonna like say like that way, then maybe it has the power to like
That's
overcome
also
other
critics,
things.
though, and not necessarily Oscar voters.
Right. And and certainly that big Oppenheimer like Barbenheimer effect
Right.
certainly like
Exactly.
plays into it and like how audiences saw these movies. I heard something on the radio, John, like the local radio station, and they were talking about movies after the Golden Globes, and I was like, oh, you guys got to stay in your lane because it's I guess like one of the broadcasters was like, oh, like Poor Things is I heard is softcore pornography, and I
Oh
can't believe like
God.
that movie would win awards. And then the person's also like, oh, I couldn't be bothered to watch Oppenheimer because it felt like homework and I didn't want to see a 3 hour movie like that. And then they were like, but I really liked Barbie and Barbie should win all the awards. And especially Margot Robbie as Barbie. And the other person's like, why? Did you like what did you like about Margot Robbie's performance in the movie? And they were like, oh well, she's just so pretty. I think she should win all the
Oh.
awards. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm fine with these people having opinions on movies. I'm not sure they should be selecting a president this year, but
Oh God, John. Oh, why did you have to do that to me?
sorry.
I'm definitely gonna have to podcast through that.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that was 23. Like I said, we found movies that we loved. Every year I say, it's up to you as an audience member, not you as in John, but to find movies that excite you and move you. And um, while it's not your job to watch as many movies as say I would, my job is to maybe make watching movies for you a little bit easier to find movies and select to watch. Um, Given that there's so much out there.
Mhm.
Um, and I hope that we've done that even over the course of the year with the movies that we've talked about over the year of 23. So yeah, hope you find some movies and enjoy them.
Yeah, agreed. Can't agree more.
I think Oppenheimer goes to Peacock in the middle of February. So if you had to
Okay.
buy Peacock to watch that playoff game, you're still in there. So you'll be fine. And you get the WWE Royal Rumble. John, I was thinking about it because like I spent the $6 because I wanted to see human beings be frozen.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what am I gonna get for my $6? And I was like, well, there's some stuff here. But
I
like,
love Peacock. I've been a subscriber for a while. I think it's a great streaming service for the price. Like everybody was pissed. I'm just like, I hope people enjoy it because I think it's really good. I'm
I
enjoying.
subscribed and then like 3 minutes later immediately unsubscribed, so that way I
A
wouldn't
lot
get
of
like
people did
random
that.
crap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. I mean, I did like they had a $20 for a year deal back over like the summer, and it was less like this is wow.
Oh, that's good. 20 for a year.
Yeah,
And watch all the Office episodes you want.
yeah, and Top Chef, which is my other favorite, and I'm enjoying The Traders right now.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's pretty good. The Alan Cumming
Yeah, yeah,
hosted
he's
show.
excellent. He's terrific.
Listen, I was thinking about Peacock. Anyways, here is our end of show, like where you can find us, which is like this is ridiculous now, John. Um, so you can find me mostly at Blue Sky. I'm there at MH Coville. I think like I looked at Twitter for the first time in like a month the other day, and I was like, why are people that I still want to see like here and not on Blue Sky? And I know why, because the reach isn't as good.
Yeah,
But it still makes me angry, and I don't want to spend time on Twitter, and I'll never call it X. And I wonder how long that newspapers and articles will call it like X, formerly known as Twitter, in their articles. And
yeah,
like,
I don't know.
and that's a whole other thing. But yeah, find me at MH Coville. John, I don't think you could be really found on the internet these days, right?
I'm trying not to be.
How about
uh,
LinkedIn? Do you have a LinkedIn profile?
I do, but I don't really use that. I mean,
Don't find John at LinkedIn.
no, I'm good. You can find me, just somewhere around town.
um, yeah, we used to have a letterbox account, and then I didn't really update it, so that's there if you want to find it. Um, we have an Instagram account that's not been updated in a while. Wow, I'm doing well. But what has been updated is my newsletter, the It's the Pictures newsletter. Um, Throughout the month of December, I did a lot of recaps of the year, my favorites, and we had a big Substack wide fight about Nazis that, if you've been following Substack,
Oh God.
has been fun. Um, but I just posted the other day some of the movies that I'm looking forward to in 24, and I'm planning some more content out for the newsletter soon. So if you want to hear from me there, I will be there. John, we're gonna go into our what you've been watching lately section, and have you been watching anything other than football or
Well,
the Globes? I guess you should have
traders.
told me about the Globes. I don't watch the Globes anymore,
I
but
don't normally either. I was with family and they had it on, and so we were kind of just checking it out. But I haven't. I mean, everything I've watched, I kind of talked about for the most part. I don't have any like additional movies that I feel like I should need to add necessarily. So I'll let you take it away.
okay. So one of the screeners I was looking forward to only because like I was semi interested in it and didn't want to pay to go see it was the Timothy Chalamet Wonka movie.
Yeah.
And like at first I was like, this movie looks dumb as hell. I hate when movies try to like redo stuff that I like. In this case, the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka movie. Like I think the Tim Burton movie is abysmal. So the
Yeah.
less said about that, the better. But this one, Wonka was directed by I guess Paul King, and he was responsible for the two Paddington movies, and those are well received. So I was like, oh well, if anybody could do it, he could do it. And yeah, it's not the Paddington movies. It's mixed. I mean, Timothy Chalamet is a charismatic actor, and he's easy to watch in performances, and there's a lot of great British talent around him in the movie. Olivia Colman's in this. Um, there's some I think Keegan Michael Cole is in it. Um, So I forgot like a bunch of other British actors from Downton Abbey and what have you. And yeah, it's cute. It's like it follows um Wonka when he's younger, I guess. Timothy Chalamet's age and how he's trying to make it as a chocolatier, and he goes to this place where there's the big three chocolatiers and they control most of the chocolate market, and he has to kind of like show off his chocolate. And of course, his chocolate's superior, but they have such a stranglehold. They even own the police, John. Um, so he has to kind of break through that and with his whimsy and magical chocolates. And it's one of those movies that like they've been advertising, but like not telling people that it's a musical. That's a thing that they've been doing a lot of lately because I guess after West Side Story didn't really make it, they're afraid to tell people that a movie is a musical. And I think that happened with The Color Purple and Mean Girls to an extent, and now Wonka. And um, I don't know if being a musical hurt these things. Maybe Universal should release Wicked and not tell people it's a musical. You think that will work for them, or should they remind people that that's a musical?
They're doing two parts, so good luck with that.
um, and the music in Wonka is okay for the most part. I hadn't really wanted to like turn on the soundtrack again. Like the song I liked the most in the movie was a Pure Imagination, which is essentially the same song that I could have heard a zillion years ago. Um, but like I think I saw like someone use a song in like a reel the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that tune, and maybe I should turn it on. And I was like, oh, I spent like 10 minutes today listening to songs from the Wonka soundtrack, so you know, it's fine. The soundtrack, it's not great, and for a musical, you want the soundtrack to be great because a movie like Hugh Jackman's Greatest Showman, that movie is not good, but the soundtrack is phenomenal. I still listen to the soundtrack to this day and enjoy it. Um, Movie not good. Like even like John, I sometimes I have the movie digitally, and I only bought it so that when I want to, I could just put on a scene where they're singing and watch the scene, and then turn the movie off.
That's hilarious.
So like I can watch like Zac Efron and Zendaya sing their duet, and then I'll be like, I'm good. I don't need to
Yeah.
watch this anymore. I don't know. Am I the only one who does that? Do you just watch scenes in movies you like and then turn them off?
I mean, I just would watch them on YouTube, I feel like.
That's fair, but like I guess it was one specific time recently. Like I was doing a tech demo, so I like turned on the new Batman movie, Robert Pattinson. I did the Batmobile chase sequence, and I was just
Okay.
like, "You gotta hear this on the sound system," and then like I played it for 10 minutes and turned it off. I guess people could understand it then because you don't
That
want to sit
seems
down and watch the
reasonable.
movie.
Yeah.
But I know for me, even sometimes I like, oh, I just want to turn on my favorite scene, and then I'm good. I can turn the movie off and remember what happens.
Yeah, I think for me I do that a lot, but just on YouTube.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think like there was what's that movie, John, with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, Point Break. So they just released a 4K of that, and I was like, oh, I want to see how this looks. So I started like at the end where like they're jumping out of the plane, and I got caught up in it. I just ended up watching it
Mm-hmm.
for like the next 20 minutes. I'm like, this movie's so good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, love Point Break. Anyways, I think that wraps up our day today, John.
Well, this is very fun. Love doing our top 10 lists annually. And, very funny that we ended up with the same top two. That's, I think, definitely a first. But maybe we'll have to go back sometime and see what other over the years, kind of crossover we've had. But no, this is great, and hopefully we gave you something as you mentioned, Max, to check out that you hadn't really heard much about or hadn't considered watching, and that's what this is about.
Alrighty. So I guess we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks again, John, and thank you for listening, everyone.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.